Okay, so the Bermuda paradox, from barren rock to economic miracle. Now, when you hear the word Bermuda, I'm betting your brain probably goes straight to, well, the Bermuda Triangle, right? Vanishing ships, airplanes disappearing, all that mystery. But today, we're diving into the source material for this explainer to uncover a geographical and economic mystery that is just, it's truly mind-blowing. We're going to look at how a place that started out as an utterly barren rock transformed into an absolute economic miracle. It's really a masterclass in adaptability, and I seriously cannot wait to break down exactly how they pulled this off. So, how exactly did this happen? First off, we need to clear up a massive misconception. Bermuda is not nestled safely down in the Caribbean Sea like a lot of people think. Not at all. It is a spectacularly isolated rock stranded right in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. It's a British overseas territory, and to give you a sense of just how completely alone it is out there, it's about 500 miles away from the closest coast of the United States. And if you look to the east, you'd have to travel nearly 3,000 miles across open, deep ocean before you hit Morocco in Africa. There are no neighboring countries, no bridges, no easy supply lines whatsoever. So how does a place with literally zero natural advantages transform into a global powerhouse? I mean, think about it. The geographic reality of this island is incredibly harsh. It has absolutely zero natural resources to export. No oil, no gold, no diamonds, nothing. Even crazier, there is not a single freshwater river or lake on the entire island. If you try to dig a well, you just hit seawater. And to top the whole thing off, it sits squarely in the path of devastating Atlantic hurricanes. Yet, despite these massive, almost unfair disadvantages, Bermuda manages an astonishing $1.5 trillion in global assets. Plus, it boasts one of the highest living standards in the entire world. They don't even have the absolute basics for survival, yet they are insanely wealthy. To really understand how they got here, we have to rewind and look at how this place was even formed. 30 million years ago, a massive volcano erupted 14,000 feet deep on the ocean floor. Eventually, that volcano went dormant. Over millions of years, crushed seashells and marine life built up this 200-foot thick crust of limestone right on top of that submerged volcanic peak. Fast forward to the Ice Age, around 3,000 years ago, and heavy rains dissolved some of this limestone, creating these magnificent, deep crystal caves underground. And then, jumping to the year 1609, an English ship crashes into the surrounding coral reefs. The stranded sailors drag themselves ashore, only to find a desolate, isolated slab of limestone with absolutely nothing to offer. So, how do you turn a barren crust into a financial empire? Well, the answer to that question definitely isn't agriculture, and it isn't manufacturing. It's a little thing called reinsurance. Let's break that down. Imagine a massive Category 5 hurricane completely wipes out a major coastal city. The local insurance companies suddenly have to pay out tens of thousands of claims all at the exact same time. Now, no single insurance company actually has the cash on hand to survive that kind of hit. They'd go bankrupt instantly. Because of that, the insurance companies themselves actually need insurance. They need a financial backstop, and that's where Bermuda stepped up. They became the reinsurance capital of the world. They essentially sell financial protection against the planet's absolute worst nightmares. And that brings us right back to that staggering number, $1.5 trillion. This tiny, isolated rock manages $1.5 trillion in assets. They aren't exporting physical goods. They are importing global risk. They are the ones writing the massive checks when the world experiences its most devastating natural disasters. But wait, you're probably wondering, if they're the ones constantly paying out for massive hurricanes and catastrophic earthquakes, how on earth are they making a profit? How does taking on the world's worst disasters actually make you rich? It all comes down to balanced risk. Bermuda doesn't just insure against hurricanes in the US. They're out there insuring against earthquakes in Japan, massive floods in Europe, and deadly bushfires in Australia. They're essentially selling mathematical probability. Because, well, the statistical reality is that on the exact day a massive earthquake strikes Japan, a catastrophic flood is highly unlikely to wipe out Europe at the same time. So while Bermuda might be paying out a massive claim to one specific region, they have the premiums continuously rolling in from the other 20 regions that are currently safe and sound. They took global fear and they brilliantly diversified it. But the actual mind-blowing wealth generation comes from how they treat all that money. Bermuda operates as a tax-free zone. The billions of dollars in premiums rolling in from those global insurance companies aren't heavily taxed by the local government. And more importantly, these reinsurance companies don't just stuff those billions under a mattress while they wait for a disaster to strike. No way! During the peaceful years, months, or days between catastrophes, they take that massive pool of premium cash and aggressively invest it into global stock markets. They multiply that money exponentially. They literally turned the universal fear of natural disasters into highly profitable working capital. It's just incredibly smart. Okay, so they brilliantly solved the macroeconomic money problem. But what about basic survival? Let's look at some everyday island hacks. Because remember, the local population is still living on a remote rock with no rivers and severe space limitations. This forced them to invent some highly unique lifestyle adaptations just to make everyday living possible. You know what they say, limitation breeds true innovation. Take the water problem, for example. With no rivers, how do they drink? Well, by law, every single house must have a specially designed white stepped roof made of limestone. When it rains, the water flows down these steps, the limestone acts as a natural purifier, and the clean water is channeled directly into a massive underground tank beneath the house. That is their drinking water. Then there's the space problem. To prevent total gridlock on such a tiny island, there's a strict law from 1951 dictating that each household can own only one single car. Furthermore, tourists aren't allowed to rent cars at all. You have to get around on a scooter. It keeps the island incredibly peaceful and pollution-free. And finally, dealing with the heat. Back in the 19th century, British military officers cut their trousers at the knee to survive the brutal humidity. Today, that has evolved into formal business attire. I'm not kidding, you will literally see the Prime Minister and Parliament wearing a suit jacket, a tie, knee-length shorts, and long socks. It's a completely unique cultural identity born entirely out of geographic necessity. But it's not just the humans. This extreme geographic isolation didn't just force people to adapt, it created some bizarre and breathtaking natural wonders. Nature had to get just as creative as the locals did to thrive out there. Let's look at Bermuda's Horseshoe Bay. It is world famous for its stunning pink sand beaches. Now, for years, people just assumed it was broken up pieces of red coral. But the truth is actually this brilliant, slightly comedic micro-story of the ecosystem. It starts with a tiny microorganism called Homotrema rubrum, which happens to have a bright red shell. Step 1, parrotfish, grazing on the reefs, eat these creatures. Step 2, those hard, red shells are crushed up in the fish's digestive tract, since they can't actually digest the shell itself. Step 3, the parrotfish excretes the crushed red shells. That incredibly colorful sand washes ashore, mixes with the white limestone sand, and gives the beaches their iconic, beautiful pink hue. That's right, the world-famous pink sand is essentially fish poop. Who would have thought?
And the quirks of nature certainly don't stop at the shoreline. Like we discussed, Bermuda is way up in the North Atlantic. It should be far too cold for coral reefs, which usually only thrive near the warm equator. Yet Bermuda boasts the northernmost coral reef system in the entire world. Why? Well, it's all thanks to the Gulf Stream. This massive ocean current acts like a giant underwater conveyor belt, bringing warm, tropical waters directly up to the island. This creates a vibrant, crystal-clear ecosystem where the water is so pure you can literally see 200 feet deep.
So, stepping back, the overarching lesson from this explainer is incredibly simple but powerful. They didn't cry about a lack of resources. They sold natural disasters to become incredibly wealthy. Bermuda grows almost nothing. They have to import almost everything. Everything is expensive. Space is incredibly limited. And they regularly get battered by massive storms. But they never sat around complaining about the geographic lottery they lost. Instead of seeing the ocean as an impassable barrier, they saw it as a tool. Instead of fearing global natural disasters, they built the mathematical and financial infrastructure to sell protection against them. They literally turned a barren, isolated rock into an economic powerhouse. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought. Do you really need everything to succeed, or just the vision to use exactly what you already have? Bermuda proved without a shadow of a doubt that you don't need freshwater rivers, or mineral wealth, or vast expanses of land to be wealthy and happy. They just needed the vision to adapt and the sheer willpower to make it work. It really makes you wonder, in our own lives, in our own businesses, are we busy complaining about the resources we lack, or are we looking for our own reinsurance strategy? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive into the Bermuda paradox gave you a totally new perspective on what's possible. Until next time, keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll see you in the next one.